Hello and welcome back to Read This Next with Laura and Nicole from the Thunder Bay Public Library. We are lucky again to be filming in the same office. So if I'm again looking over there, it's because I'm looking at Laura.
And if there's any like strange echoing or whatever,
New room.
That's why.
Yeah. So this week we are doing our wrap up of the year. We're going to be telling you guys everything that we've read, even though we've covered a lot of it already. But yeah.
Yes, our year in reading, and we did it definitely last year. I'm not sure about the year before that, but I am I'm sure I've talked about before, like a Goodreads fanatic. So I track everything that I read.
Yeah.
And so I have all this data, which is what a treat to go through, and it just does like interesting things about our reading patterns, and also yeah, I think you can really see the podcast reflected, surprisingly, in like kind of the trends and things. But should we just get into it?
I think so. I think the first thing you need to know is Laura will have a lot more to say than me because she just simply read more books. I read 3 books in the past week though. So
dang.
Look at me go.
Yeah, plowing through at the end of the.
No kidding.
Yeah, the first thing that's noticeable is that it's much higher number than it was last year for me, and that's because I started tracking picture books this year, and like leveled readers and stuff, and I hadn't been tracking those. So before it was just like novels. So my number is like, I would say like inflated somewhat, right? Because a bunch of them are picture books, so it's not like it really doesn't really count the same way. But I read 114 books this year.
Wow.
But again, 55 of them were picture books or easy leveled readers or whatever. And then 2 were young adults, which is wild.
That's surprising to me that you read so few YA.
I know, because I used to read like almost exclusively young adult, and especially when it's an area that I oversee and purchase, so I see a lot of what's coming in. So normally, like, I just see things that catch my attention and then I pick them up. But for whatever reason this year, dialed way the heck back. Not that I mean, I don't want to cast any aspirations on the quality of YA this year. Not what I'm saying. Just for whatever reason, more adult titles caught my interest. So I read 57 adult novels.
Wow. How many did you read last year? Do you know?
I not without looking it up.
Okay. That's okay.
That's okay. And I will connect in the show notes to last year so you can see.
Wow. Do we want to do this so that you talk through all of your stuff or that we go back and forth?
We can go back and forth.
Okay. I'll scroll down to mine then. Okay. My year in reading, I read 17 books because one of them I haven't recorded yet. And I think of those 4 were YA and the rest were adult.
See, that's, yeah, I feel like we're
aging out.
And there's nothing wrong with reading young adult books. I don't know, maybe it also has something to do with some of the topics on the podcast are just more,
that could be,
we're more popular in adult novels, and so when we were looking for titles we found more adult ones.
That could be
lots of factors. Either way, interesting that we both read less young adult.
Yeah,
fortunately.
Yeah, because we are specifically, like, if you were to ask anybody in the library system, like, who reads YA, I think we'd probably be the top 2 listed.
Yes.
Yeah.
No longer. Well, I mean, maybe we'll get back to it next year. Who knows? Who knows? Well, let's be honest. I'm going to be off for a year. I'm mostly just going to be reading board books.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'll be getting into heavy next year.
Well, hey, you'll be able to count it at least.
It's true. Okay, sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
It's all good. That was actually all I had to say. I don't remember what the next one was supposed to be. Oh, you need to tell us what was the longest one.
Sure. So here's some kind of like little quick facts. So the longest novel that I read was The Violence by Delilah Dawson, 512 pages.
Wow. That was
Intense.
in what? Intense?
It was intense. I
Oh,
said.
intense. Wow. I was like, oh, what's that word?
It makes sense though. Like I don't remember the book like it was like a thriller
Mhm.
feeling draggy or anything, but it is one of those ones that like starts with an apocalypse.
Didn't we
And
talk about that one?
sure did.
Oh, okay.
And then it follows through though, like it follows through further along into the characters' lives
Okay.
to see that like the different repercussions and how it plays out until it almost becomes, the different category where now it's just dystopian. Because that's just life now,
Just
right?
continued that long.
Yeah, and often like those are two separate kind of genres, right? You'll get books that talk about the apocalypse and then books that talk about the dystopia, but this one is long enough that it kind of branches and gets all the way into those into that as well.
Wow.
And then I don't think that, and then these are other little quick things. Oldest publication date, I read some Agatha Christie's when we did our mysteries, so that was like 1939, 1949. And then my other really old one happens to be Go Dog Go. Classic.
Cute.
Classic 1961. Recently, like in the last couple of years, a show on Netflix. It's not the worst.
Oh, okay.
That's my glowing.
Yeah, that's like, go watch this thing on Netflix. It's not bad.
The worst. It's not the worst children's programming that you could watch. And then my other older one, like outside of those, was in 2002. The memoir of Call the Midwife was published, which is also a television show. I would maybe say was even better than Go Dog Go.
Well, there you go. Maybe check out Go Dog Go. Definitely check out
Call the Midwife.
Call the Midwife. I don't think I didn't record my stats for what the oldest book was because they were all like the last couple 2 years. Yeah. The longest one that I read was Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer Armentrout, which was 645 words.
Was that a book one or
let me double check. I think it was.
Oh no, not
it was number 3.
Okay, so she's building too.
She built up to it and I tore through it. I don't know about how you approach the Twilight series when it came out, but for me, it was like I read the first one, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Then the second one came out, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Then the third one came out, and my sister bought the third and the fourth one for me for Christmas. Yeah. I tore through Eclipse that night. I was like basically opened it on Christmas and then read it all day. I think I finished at like 3 in the morning. It was, I could not put it down. Yeah, so that was a long one. The Crown of Gilded Bones. And then the shortest one was Dodge City, which was a graphic novel.
Oh, yes.
That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know the oldest or the newest. They're all, I think the newest was probably the Golden Enclaves, which was a Naomi Novik, which just came out.
Yeah.
I got it in my hot little hands on hold and I was like, ooh, and I just read it. It was good.
On my to read list, the longest, and I had it, neither of these were super. I was kind of surprised that like the oldest was 2017.
Oh, on your to read list? Oh.
So like similarly, I've mostly been reading stuff that I added recently.
There's been a lot of good books. You know what I'll say about running this show is I'm seeing so many more like, ooh, I want to read that. Ooh, I want to read that. And like, you can never read as many books as you'd want.
No. That's why my to read list will always
be bigger.
Be big. Yeah. But so both of these books were added. One was added in February 2017 and one was added in March 2017, funnily enough.
Wow.
And so one of them, I don't like, we're a pretty positive podcast, so I'm not going to explain why or anything, but so the one that I added in February 2017 was The Change Room by Karen Connolly, and I gave that only 2 stars. And then The Breakdown by B.A. Paris, I gave 4 stars, and I had to write a note. I might have been feeling generous. Like looking at it now, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Why did I like that?
Why did I really like it, not just like it? I don't know. And that also is recently slated for a film adaptation. I remember just reading about that news.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Lovely. What were the next like topics that we had were the worst twist, most wrecked, one you couldn't put down, and the worst cover and the best cover. Mine, I didn't have much to say. The worst twist, there was no.
I
I've been
picked
reading
some
bad.
different things.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have all those same categories this time either.
Oh, fair enough. I had for I will just say like I'm reading a lot of like romance and they all have bad twists. And you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
or they're just like I like you could see it coming. Like there was one called The Prince of Never, which we don't have in the collection. That's why I've never wrecked it. It was also like okay, but
Yeah.
it was like there was this prophecy about this girl who would something about never, and the main character's name, the guy romance was Ever, and I was like, and then they're like cutely calling each other like Never, and I was like, and you didn't know what the
Prophecy could have
prophecy
been related
was?
to.
Yeah, so I was like, no thanks. But yeah, what categories did you have?
Okay, so for striking covers,
I saw yours.
Manhunt, yeah,
Yeah,
it is striking.
very.
We'll have like go look it up in the show notes, or if you happen to be
Yeah.
watching the video, we'll flash it up. It's very striking.
Yes.
By Gretchen Felker Martin. And then the other one I picked was Hide by Kirsten White. Just because
that was the tree or the
it's the one
amusement
where
park?
there's like the amusement park and then all the roots coming down underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of it's spooky.
It's spooky.
Yes. So those are my two striking covers. I felt like when I looked at my list of the year, those are the ones that like jumped out at me. And there just weren't any that were really terrible. I will say, if you look at the show notes from last year, my like bad covers, they were really bad.
I believe it. I had a lot of bad covers too this year.
Yeah, this one, they were not so bad. My other like sort of, so this wasn't a twist, but this was my biggest letdown. And I think that, yeah, this was, I again, saying, we don't usually say.
I think this is the one time of year that we're allowed to be like,
Okay.
say it. Come on.
Okay, I'll say it. Okay. Now I have to like look it up because I took the title out and I don't remember. I don't remember the author's name. I censored myself so well that I can't even remember the author's name.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
While
Okay.
you're you got it?
Oh, maybe not. Okay, no, while I'm looking it up, I will read the description. So
Please
this
do.
is a description from Goodreads. In the way that only great fiction can. Title takes between its teeth the contradictions written all over our ideas of sex and sexuality. As incisive as it is exhilarating, this novel asks us to face our ideas about desire and power, what sex means to us, the forces that shape it, and how we find or lose ourselves in intimacy. At once juicy and intellectually challenging.
Juicy.
Oh, the faces you're making, it's amazing. Sacred and profane. It might be the most thought-provoking book you read all year. Now, yeah, I don't want to pretend that I was like, juicy.
That's the key word.
That's the key word. I'm into it. But it was a very buzzy title. I kept hearing about it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was curious because I'd read another book with sort of similar thematic elements, and I was curious about how this one worked out. Needless to say, I was not impressed. And I was looking at it and I wondered about like professional reviews, and just a beautiful burn from Publishers Weekly about this novel. The prose is smooth and smart, and the sex scenes elicit maximum titillation, but the result, which conforms to contemporary subdom lifestyle dynamics as the narrator explores her conflicting desires, ultimately feels more tame than transgressive.
Interesting.
The author has a great deal of talent, although this feels a lot like 50 Shades of Grey for the Ivy League set.
Interesting. That is a good burn.
So people who think that, 50 Shades of Grey was trash were talking about this book because of kind of the reputation of the author and just the way it was positioned, like, oh, this is literary fiction.
This is well written
This
trash.
is, well, yes, you know, like, well, we can, this is better than something like that, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, you know what? It's not.
Interesting.
It's not. It's pretty basic.
What was the title?
Yeah, I know now you want the title.
Well, we can always cut it later if you really want, but
it honestly, I am having like a hard time finding it now, and I don't know why.
okay, well, I'll insert it here if we find it. If not, it will just Google the description, I guess, that we gave you.
Well, you can go to my Goodreads and
Oh, there you go.
you'll track it down there.
Apparently, I have one that I gave 2 stars. So I'm actually curious now what one I rated with 2 stars.
Yes,
Try and take a peek.
I have my breakdown of like how many books I gave different amounts of stars to. So I always end up having the majority are 3-star books because that's kind of how I do it. You have to like really impress me.
Mine were
or
mostly
really
3.
annoy me to be
to go
the
either
other
way.
direction.
Yeah.
So I had 6 5-star books. And the reason that number is so high is because 4 were picture books.
Oh, well, that's fair. That's fair.
And then the other 2 5-star books, one was The Violence, which I've already said was the longest one. And then the other was one that I don't think I even ended up talking about this as one of the ones in the podcast. But I read it because it's been under a lot of pressure, especially in the States, to be challenged or banned or suspended in different schools because of its content. And so I was curious. And I gave it 5 stars because it's a great book, and it's called Lawn Boy. It's by Jonathan Evison, and it is kind of a little bit of like a heartbreaking look at class and the difficulty of moving from one economic level to another, and how the system is so set up that it's almost impossible. You know, like, even if you find yourself in a position where you're making more money, you may not have ever, been in a position to know what to do with that extra money, to know to go get a savings account, because that's just never been part of your life. So how do you overcome those? The book has been challenged in the States a lot because it's the main character is LGBTQ. The book's not even really about that. It's really about like class struggles in a lot of ways. Like, just it's a great book.
I'll have to give it a try.
I really recommend it. I do. Yeah.
So those were your 2?
Those are my 2 5 stars.
Lovely. I will tell you what mine were once I pull it up. Oh yeah, okay. So my 5 stars, I had way more than you. I had 5 stars. To be fair though, some of them aren't in the collection. So I'm not gonna mention those ones.
Okay.
One was The Golden Enclaves, which was the last book in the Sholomance series by Naomi Novik. Really good. I think a really satisfying conclusion to the entire thing. I still stand by my statement that it could easily be in the YA area. I don't know why it's an adult trilogy. I thought maybe she would be, I don't know what she could have done that would have made it an adult one, but clearly she just wanted it in the adult section.
Yeah.
The other one was From Blood and Ash, which is the first one in the Blood and Ash series, which is like, this is one of them that was like really TikTok popular. And like, it's by Jennifer Armentrout. Yeah, the third one was the one I rated, or was the highest rated one though by everyone, which I thought was really interesting.
Because usually it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, usually the third one is, well, it's like Sarah J. Maas books. The third one is like the best one too in that Court of Thorn and Roses series. But yeah, it was interesting because when you look at that series specifically, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this one was really good, and then the reviews just kept getting higher, and then they went down afterwards. But yeah, I rated the first one the best because I think it was the most solid. Like, it clearly had threads to like build on, but it felt like it had the most
cohesive story.
Yeah, most cohesive story, and the most like conflict that was more people based rather than like political. I don't know how, like, it's like two nations kind of, not nations, like two people fighting for one empire kind of thing, and they're both like,
Sure.
we have claim to this throne
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that sort of machinations
Yeah,
thing.
it's I'm dumbing it down a little bit, but it also it also
Fair
has
enough.
vampires and werewolves, so it's not that serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It took me a long time to realize that there was vampires and werewolves in it though, because they don't call them that. And also, like, I was reading it and I was like, "Oh my god, this is Twilight. Like, this is vampires and werewolves and love."
And love.
But yeah, that was those were 2 of my 5 stars. The rest were probably just like romance ones that I couldn't even find on Kobo, and like you know what I'm finding is I'm having a really hard time getting a lot of those like romance books that are, because they're just not available anywhere. I check all the legal places and then I'm
Yeah.
like, I guess I'll go the bad route.
Is it because they're self-published?
No, like they're big names, at least in the romance industry. Like one is Katie Robert, who is wrote a very good Hades Persephone romance. I think I might have told you about it, but I don't think I talked about it on here because we don't have it. But they're really big, and I couldn't get them any legal routes.
Interesting.
I think I could, yeah, because the problem with Amazon is you can get it as Kindle, but you can't get it as Kobo.
Right.
So I ran into that a lot, which is interesting. But yeah.
That's like a librarian mystery to figure out what's going on there.
It was very curious, but so I had 5 5-stars, 4 4-star books, 6 3-star books, and only 1 was 2 stars, and it was a different series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Very
interesting.
Very different.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I didn't like about it.
But you didn't.
I didn't like it.
I remembered what the book was called. It's called Acts of Service.
Is that based off the 5 love languages?
No.
I mean, is it a play on that though? Because I know you described it as like
I don't think so.
Interesting.
It's not,
because that's a very academic approach of love. So
you're being more thoughtful than it deserves.
Fair enough. Not related,
I would say. No, I think a little more literal. Yeah. So my ratings, my lowest 1-star books actually were like 4 picture books that I was just like, no, they've got bad rhymes or poor messages, or like, how do you even end up with this as a problem in your picture books? Too many plot lines.
Oh, really?
In a picture book.
Well, did it end up being like a long picture book?
No, it was like the usual length. It just jumped from like one thing to the next.
That's too much.
It was too much. Too much. But I had 26 4-star books, 63 star books, 18 2-star books.
Wow, hey, that's not too bad.
No, it's not.
And did you say that you already told us that you had a 1 1-star? That was the only one.
There was, and then 4 picture books.
Oh, right. Sorry, my brain just was like,
yes.
Wow.
The let me see. The most popular they had the highest number of ratings. So like the most people read and rated this book on Goodreads. For me was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston.
Yeah,
it had got 161,000 ratings.
Whoa!
And its average rating is 4, which is crazy high for that many different people. And then the lowest, so like the lowest number of people reported reading this book was The Damage Done by Michael Landweber. 195 reviews, which is very low. And
that's not that many at all.
Not that many at all. And I was kind of surprised because this is the one that, if you listen to all our episodes, you'll know what I'm referring to. But this is the one that I said it was almost like, it was basically a thought experiment. What if violence no longer existed? Right, where it was like,
oh, that one had interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't look into it more if it was a really small publisher or something. But then like, how did I ever come across it? Because I don't know. It was an interesting little, and then the average rating from the readers was 3.48. So the last sort of category, I think, was like books that deserve another shout out that we did talk about, but I just want to highlight again, Blood Sugar by Sasha Rothschild, which was like a thriller. and Number One Fan by Meg Ellison, also a thriller. And then books that I read that weren't mentioned on the podcast that I wanted to just again make sure they were mentioned was Two Stormwood by Philip Gray, which was a historical thriller set in World War One. Not my usual bag.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
And it didn't fit into any of our categories, but I did enjoy it. It was interesting. And then The Patient, which is a horror, an existential horror.
Okay.
Originally posted on a Reddit forum, and then caught attention and was self-published, and then was published as traditionally published.
Interesting.
And then the last one was a book called Good Morning Midnight by Lily Brooks Dalton, and that one was adapted as a Netflix movie earlier this year, and it's an atmospheric, slow-moving, apocalyptic, and I quite enjoyed, so I wanted to throw that.
I love that. That's great. I love that we get to wrap, especially because you're not going to be here for the next few episodes, that we'll get to wrap it up. I didn't have any that needed another shout out. I pretty much hammer home all my favorite artists or authors like a billion times, but the one that I would recommend that we didn't cover was actually a nonfiction book, and I read it at the beginning of the year, and it's had a huge impact on me. Actually, it's called, I can't say the title, but it's called The F It Diet.
Close enough.
By Carolyn Dooner. I believe we have a copy, and if we don't, we definitely have it on Cloud Library, because that's I think where I read it. But it's basically a book that discusses how you don't necessarily need a diet to be healthy, which is very it was very, very interesting. It also talked about a topic called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment, which if you don't want to read the book, just give that a try. It was a very interesting read, and it actually kind of changed the way that I think about eating, and not in a way that thinks I need to diet. It's more just thoughts about changing how you approach food
yourself.
Yeah, it was very well written. I liked it a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so give that one a shot if you're interested, or any of the million other books that we always talk about. But that being said, I will wrap us up.
Yes.
Thank you again for watching. Make sure you check us out at TBPL across the board. You can get our show notes at tbplofftheshelf.com. I almost said .ca again. And yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell us how many books you read this year and what was your favorite. And I will see you in 2 weeks, and Miss Laura will not.
Maybe I'll pop up guest every now and then.
Oh, I would love that.
I probably will. Let's be honest.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you.
Bye.